In a year like no other, video programs across the nation have found new ways to continue telling their stories. This year, STN had to make changes so that we could connect while being apart.
No matter what life brings, we will rise as a nation of storytellers. Let's take a look.
Reporting from Homestead, Florida,
this is Oaks TV.
Reporting from Tampa, Florida, we are Sickles TV.
Reporting from Southern California, we are live from 205.
Reporting from the heart of the San Joaquin Valley in Porterville, California, this is Monachi Television.
Reporting from South Central Pennsylvania, this is WCAT Wildcat TV.
Reporting from Rockland, California, we are WCTV 19.
Reporting from Southern California,
we are West Ranch TV.
Reporting from Gainesville, Georgia, this is ENN.
Reporting from Las Cruces, New Mexico, we are Bulldog Broadcast.
Reporting from Southern California, we are CHS TV.
Reporting from Maui, Hawaii, this is Maui High, FYI.
Reporting from Vancouver, Canada, we are Rebels Media.
Reporting in Southern California, we are VMS TV, Valley Middle School.
Reporting from Northeastern Connecticut, this is KTV.
Reporting from Johns Creek, Georgia, we are JCNN.
Reporting from Geneva, Illinois, this is GTV News.
Reporting from Holbrook, Massachusetts, this is Koblu News.
Reporting from Granite Bay, California,
we are GBTV.
From Lehue, Hawaii, this is Kauai High Media.
Reporting from Orlando, Florida, we are LHB TV.
Reporting from Cleveland, Georgia, we are WTVN.
Reporting from Orange County, California, this is Portola News Network.
Reporting from Hilo, Hawaii, this is Waikia Digital Media.
Reporting from Lebanon Trail High School in Frisco, Texas, we are Vanguard TV.
From Goleta, California, this is DP News.
Reporting from Castaic in Southern California, we are CMS TV.
Reporting from Castaic, California, we are Good Morning Castaic.
Tuning in from Maui, this is Hezi, reporting for Not Cool Media.
Reporting from Lee Summit, we are Studio 2081.
Reporting from North Florida,
this is Nice Wired.
Reporting from South Florida, we are CTV. Reporting from Windward, Oahu and Kailua, Hawaii, this is Mustang Media.
We are a nation of storytellers.
We are a nation of storytellers.
We're a nation of storytellers.
We are a nation of storytellers.
We are a nation of storytellers. And no matter what life brings,
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 we will still tell the story.
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 We will always tell the story.
No matter what life brings,
we will still tell the story.
Hello, STN family, and thank you to all the students and teachers who helped with that great introduction video. I seriously got chills the first time that I watched it. My name is Sherry, in case you don't know, and as the new executive director, I am thrilled to be here and welcome you to the STN 2021 National Convention. We all know that this has been a strange year, one that many would like to forget. It has distanced us from loved ones and friends, kept us out of school and away from the things we love, like convention. But true storytelling comes from a place where we are vulnerable and real with our surroundings. That is why this year's theme is no matter what life brings, we will still tell the story. Words can't describe my excitement and honor to be part of my first STN convention. I'm actually coming to you from the location of our 2022 convention, but can't reveal where I am just yet, so wait until the closing ceremony. Now, just a quick reminder on integrity. We know things are going to be different in a virtual world, and we certainly can't control all of the things that happen. I just want to put it on all of you to put your best foot forward and don't cheat yourselves. So let's all just rally around and do a convention filled with integrity. As I prepared for tonight, one thing I wanted to do was reach out to those who knew the STN story, the legacy. So I talked to some board members, staff, teachers, and students. And here's what I learned. Some words used to describe STN this past year: rebuilding, normalcy, something to look forward to, support system, resilient, pivoting, and sometimes discouraging. The STN people are seen now exciting and expanding. Their motivation, energized and hopeful. And now STN's future, people see change, power in community, expansion, embracing difference, adapting, new adventures and impact. Now this excites me, and you have our commitment to continue empowering future storytellers. As a former producer, a quote that drives me is, "True champions are fixed on where they are headed." So right now, I'm asking you to shift your focus to your goal for this convention. Why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? Stay the course and don't let a pandemic, weather, circumstances, or anything else prevent you from stepping into your calling. Get out there and tell the story exactly as it is. Now, before we hear from our experts on the panel, let me pass you off to someone who excelled in telling the story and is very well respected by the STN community. Please help me welcome this year's Student of the Year, Miss Ella Grace.
Hi there. My name is Ella Grace Rodriguez, and I cannot express enough how grateful I am to be your 2019-2020 Student Television Network Student of the Year. I know this wasn't the year we all imagined or hoped for, but just hearing about this convention has made me so excited for you all. I can't wait to see what you guys produce. So here's a little bit about me. I'm a film and television production major studying film at the University of Southern California. But what that basically means is that I study a lot. And really, it's about my two favorite things, journalism and film. And that's actually in thanks to Student Television Network. Here, attending my first convention in 2014, I realized how passionate I was about storytelling, both fiction and nonfiction through film. While I didn't win every year, I grew up with STN, and I can't wait to see some of you all do the same. But it takes a village. And for me, my village was found in the walls of Winter Park High School and Maitland Middle School. Marcy Ite, Lori Lorenzana, and Kevin Marshburn, I'm looking at you all. Thank you guys, seriously. I'm thankful for mentors like them who have encouraged me to pursue my dreams, take risks, and above all, have fun and work hard while doing so. I will forever cherish the lessons I learned from you all. Thank you. But a special thank you in my heart goes to the one who pushed me the most out of all, Michelle Washington Gerber. To the teacher who saw it all, my worst and best days, who pushed me to always be my best, who offered the best insight and ear to listen to, and who inspired dozens of students like me to pursue this crazy industry, thank you. Words cannot express my gratitude for you and Room 218. Thanks. I mention these teachers not because they're just awesome, even though they're fantastic and always deserve to be recognized, but because when I was a student at Winter Park in my sophomore year, our film group had the opportunity to attend Nashville for the 2018 STN convention. We were a tight team, both technically and socially. Every group and every competition nailed the practice sessions, and we were all friends outside of that. But we were still a little anxious about the competitions ahead. It wasn't until someone in our group decided to start a trend, a single sticky note that said one thing: it will be okay. Shortly after, these notes were everywhere, on camera bags, tripods, laptops, whiteboards, backpacks, the backs of t-shirts, you name it. It was probably there. We ended up having this little inside joke that we could all share, and it was great. We ended up going to Nashville, it ended up being okay, and we went back. End of story, right? Of course not. This is STN. Flash forward 1 year later. Seattle 2019, Crazy Eights. My group participated in the documentary category. It was chaos, which meant that it was going smoothly at STN. Even though I was the youngest member on the team, I was the lead editor because I was the primary interviewer. I went through each of the interviews, selected the best lines, and weaved the storyline together that we wanted to create. We finished the film with 45 minutes to spare. After seeing a final rendition, we asked Miss Gerber to look it over. Suddenly, my computer froze with the insidious rainbow wheel of doom, as we like to call it. We had to restart. And when it turned back on, we lost everything. Fortunately, we were ahead of schedule. While we did not plan for a crash, we kept an optimistic mindset. We had all of the footage, graphics, interviews, and music that we thought we could relocate, but it wasn't enough. When the deadline arrived, we had no product to turn in. We failed the task. Epically. Remember the topic and message that I just said earlier? It will be okay. Yeah, that time felt anything but that. To begin with, I was responsible for the failure. It was my computer and I was the primary editor. I let my teammates down, big time. Not to mention that they were seniors, and this was their last year to compete. What do you do when you look around you and think, it will not be okay? I mean, for us, we cried. Or at least I did. Luke took a great photograph of me in an XL t-shirt looking sadly out the window. It was really embarrassing, but I'm actually going to show you now because I've never failed this big at film before, and I think you should see that. Film was something I was relatively good at, and I was passionate about. And if something bad happened, I was always able to pull through. But I remember thinking in this moment, shoot, this time, I can't control the plan. But shortly after, on the same day, I was reminded of my family's mantra. The plan is, the plan will change. It's a simple phrase, but to me, it means to be and to accept flexibility. I'm guilty of marching on a direct path so stubbornly that there appears to be only success or failure, nothing in between. But as cliche as it sounds, the one thing I realized I could control in that situation was my attitude. Shortly after, we did recover a great deal of the work, and with a few touches, we ended up with one of the strongest pieces that our group has ever produced, albeit past the competition deadline. But would it be okay? While it failed to serve its original purpose, we found other alternatives for the documentary. It won some really cool awards locally, and even Best Documentary at a statewide high school film festival. The film was even part of my 15-piece application to a little film school called the USC School of Cinematic Arts. But I must note that while they aren't here on the stage with me, or really this blank wall behind me, my partners are just as equally responsible for the beautiful work they produced alongside me. To Alexis Gebhardt, Justin Whittingham, and Luke Sand, I could not be more thankful for you all. You were the best partners I could ask for, and I was so honored to work with you all. Thank you for growing up with me. And thank you for creating some of the best films and memories that I could have ever imagined. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. But will it be okay? As we all have experienced in the past years, sometimes there are moments in our lives where it's difficult and even painful to think of a future where the world is okay. Right now, it doesn't feel like it will be okay. I mean, how can we say such an arbitrary phrase when more than 300,000 Americans alone have lost their lives to the coronavirus pandemic? Divisions in political unrest grow and strengthen. Our world is literally heating up. Families are displaced and falling apart, and the very world and life we knew before us has radically shifted. Even on a seemingly smaller scale, our classes are virtual, our parties are on Zoom. Milestone events we've waited our lives for put on pause or on screen. Watching The Office 4 times straight may help us, right? Right? Maybe? But only temporarily. They took it off Netflix, for crying out loud. But things don't always look or feel like they will ever be okay. And that's a really scary thought to have. But the plan will change. The plan is never what we think it will look like, ever. But that doesn't mean we can't learn and grow as human beings out of it. I never thought I would graduate high school on YouTube in my PJs on the couch. I never thought I would be attending my first semester of college in a childhood bedroom. I never thought the last time I could hug my grandparents was on February 27th, 2020. These aren't even the scariest parts of our pandemic, but I'm sure you have these thoughts too, if not scarier and sadder. But what we can do as humans and citizens of this world is to go forth in an unparalleled, unprecedented convention of student television network. I request you carry this. Have hope for the here and now. Yes, we don't know the timeline of this pandemic. Yes, we don't know whether or not we'll be able to safely hug our friends and family ever again, or work on assignments or attend class without a mask. Our world will not be the same, but it will be okay. Let us not reminisce sadly over the glory days of not worrying about wearing a mask or bringing hand sanitizer, because honestly, you should have carried hand sanitizer in the first place. Like, people are really gross. Rather, let us focus on what we can do now, in our present time and place, with the resources surrounding us. There, we can accept and enjoy being okay in the moment, because that's what life is about. It's not anticipating the moments, but making them. Or if you're at STN, it's about capturing them. STN, you are a tenacious group of students. You inspire change in your work, and I have seen that time and time again. From the time you arrive here to the time you depart and everything in between, There is something special here, something truly magical about the students of this convention. The stories you share this week with the world are not only monumental, but they are a part of history. You have so much power in your camera lens, power not to be used irresponsibly. And when you are discouraged, when you feel as if all hope is lost, acknowledge your pain. But know that it will be okay. Maybe not this week, or next year, or in our lifetimes, but we are here regardless of our circumstances, and that matters. So what will you do? Get to work, adapt, change the plans, pivot, break some stuff, fix it, go with your gut, don't go with your gut, but know that it will be okay. It will be okay. Thank you, STN, for your time and presence. I wish each and every one of you peace in this season and always. Thank you.
And we are live. Welcome to probably one of the most useful panel discussions for your STN experience, our best practices panel. We're so excited that you guys are here, and we can't wait to see what stories you're going to be telling this weekend and beyond. I'm your STN Student of the Year, Ella Grace Rodriguez, and I'm joined by some amazing professionals in the industry who will be judging some of your work this year. So let's see who's here. So first off, let me introduce Grant Bohanton. Grant got his start in media while a student at Marquette High School and attended the STN National Convention twice while he was in high school, so he's been in your shoes. It was at these conventions that he fell in love with all things media. After high school, Grant attended Missouri State University and graduated in 2011 with a degree in mass media production. After moving to Los Angeles, Grant got his first job as a production assistant at Freeform and Disney Channel. He spent 3 years at Disney, where he was lucky to be able to work on 4 amazing shows: Recovery Road, Baby Daddy, Walk the Prank, and Shadowhunters. In 2016, Grant left Disney and moved over to Warner Brothers Television and Berlanti Productions, where he has worked on hit shows as a post-production supervisor, including DC's Legend of Tomorrow, The Flash, and to his current show, DC's Stargirl. We also have Ken Stone here. Ken worked in radio and television for 20 years before starting his own production company. He taught broadcast journalism at the University of Minnesota for 7 years and has been a judge and presenter at the STN convention since its very first year. So I think he knows a few things. And we also have here Dave Wertheimer. Dave is an award-winning news videographer who has worked at TV stations from around the country. For years, he has been one of the main presenters at the NPPA workshop for professional videographers and also a judge and presenter for STN. He currently runs his own video production company in Disco, Wisconsin, which I just think is a really cool town name to live in. Like, Disco is a cool name, in my opinion. But last and certainly not least, we have Liz Collin, an anchor and reporter for WCCO TV. Liz started her broadcasting career in high school at a small town radio station when she covered a tornado that hit southwestern Minnesota. The Emmy award-winning journalist has worked at the Minneapolis CBS affiliate since 2008. Her investigative reports have helped shape public policy in regards to child safety at daycare centers in Minnesota and proper staffing at 911 call centers in Minneapolis. So first off, thank you guys so much for being here. I know I'm going to be getting a lot of this and all of our viewers as well. Just to kind of start the ball rolling, what are some defining things that you all as judges and professionals of this field look at when watching a film or a broadcast?
Story. I mean, the very first thing, I mean, we all have different expertises. I'm a producer, Dave's a videographer, editor, Grant is a Hollywood type. Grant, I'm not even quite sure exactly what you do, but you tell stories as well. Liz, anchor and reporter. We all want stories. It doesn't matter whether it's a PSA. It doesn't matter whether it's a short film. It does not matter if it's a sports report. It's got to have a beginning and a middle and an end, some foreshadowing, a build, and then some sort of ending, climax. More than anything else, that's what I think almost every judge looks for, on top of all the technical stuff that you got to do.
When it comes to, I would say that storytelling is the biggest thing, and I think a lot of students I've seen as a judge tend to overthink things a bit with fancy graphics or music or different dissolves that are completely nuts. But really just get back to those storytelling skills, and I think they'll really serve you well in all of the competitions.
when it comes to style versus story, story has to win. It doesn't matter if it's shaky or steady, but as long as you're telling a story with the beginning, middle, end, like Ken said, then you've got them hooked.
I would concur with all that. If you don't have a story, you don't have anything. You don't have a news story, you don't have a television show, you don't have a feature, you don't have a sports report. Everything comes back to telling the story and telling it properly.
Yeah, and just so you know, over the years, I mean, there have been times when we're looking at a couple of pieces which are both pretty darn good, and we're not sure which one should be in first, which one should be in second. And so we'll actually have several judges take a look at it. And almost always, in my recollection, we ended up siding with yeah, those guys didn't quite have the sound right, but they had the story absolutely right. The other folks had the really cool bells and whistles, but it was not much of a story, and almost always we'll give it to the storytellers.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, that's one of the big things here at STN. Our motto is tell the story. So that's a really big facet of our program. I'm just curious, how do you hook your audience? Because that's really important to consider. What are some ways that you've seen in previous films when judging that they just really hook you in? Is there any thread, or what is it about them that hooks you in?
Simplicity. Keep it simple, sweetie. Kiss it. You can't cram 100 pounds in a 10-pound bag. You know, even though you got your best friend that you want to have in the video, if it doesn't advance the story, cut them out. Planning. That's probably the biggest thing that we hope you get to do is when you get your assignment, take a couple minutes and just plan. Even when I had the good fortune of working with Liz, you know, even if we had 5 minutes, we would talk about the story. It may change, but the communication is there. Plan, and keep it simple.
And I would say even, you know, on my day-to-day life as a news reporter, I start my day figuring out how I'm going to tease the story and also writing the intro that the anchors read on the air for my story. And that actually helps me focus my brain as to here are the facts that we will uncover in the story. And it sort of just helps you get a clear focus for the day. And I would suggest doing the same thing, a bit of here's 2 sentences, explain your assignment in 2 sentences, what you're hoping to accomplish. Because I think if everybody can literally get on the same page, it's going to make your jobs a lot easier.
From my world is that planning's everything. In films and television, whenever you're telling a story, if you don't plan, you don't have a show. You don't show up to day one on a shoot and expect everything to go right if it's not planned out correctly. In form of storytelling, news stories are no different from Hollywood. If you don't have them in a certain amount of time, you don't have them, period, for the show. With all the content out there, there's just too easy to click and move to something else. So story structure and making sure your story is there before you ever go to production is, to me, the most important thing. And if you don't plan, it will show up on the screen. You cannot hide it. It will show up.
Yeah, one of the things that Dave said about keep it simple, so often we'll get a pretty good story, pretty good piece, and it just doesn't quite have the ending. And part of it is it's tick, 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 tick. You're trying to figure it out. So many times that's happened. So my piece of advice about that would be, if you're sort of stuck about, okay, so how do we finish? Think about what your first shots were. Think about what the first 2 sentences were that you spoke or were spoken, and think, can I loop back to that in some ways because then you have a theme and a simpler story. It's like, okay, we began with this story and we ended with it. So it can be a word, it can be a shot, it can be a sound that will help you wrap up that piece.
Yeah, I think that planning and definitely keeping it simple are 2 really integral aspects in storytelling, and especially on a timeline. And I know for Liz, you work in broadcast, so you're always constantly pushing those deadlines. And that's not to say that Ken, Dave, or Grant haven't experienced deadlines. I'm sure they have. But when you're working under that kind of pressure day in and day out, how do you react to that? And what are some ways that these students, when going into Crazy Eights tomorrow and going in their competitions this week, what are the best ways that they can prepare themselves for that deadline more than just, just getting the prompt and then running for it?
Well, I will say Crazy Eights is appropriately named, and I actually think it's a very good test as to what we face on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it is my job to put 130, that's 90 seconds on the air every day, if not more, and the clock starts ticking as soon as you get in the newsroom. Those were the days when we actually went to the newsroom. But nowadays, of course, things are a bit different. But it really, in breaking news situations, and Dave will tell you this as well, sometimes you're lucky to have 20 minutes, 10 minutes, you can just arrive on the scene and be live on the news. So deadlines are something we're up against constantly. And I would say that I think that simplicity part, which will play a big role in what you guys do, I've carried that through my 20-year career. Just do not overthink it. It doesn't have to be pretty sometimes. You just have to get it on TV. But facts matter. Clear, concise storytelling matters, and that's no different than when you're in high school or college. Those are skills you'll have with you for your whole career, should you choose to stay in this crazy business.
Well, I can speak from the television and film side, and luckily I came out of the sports and journalism world before moving over to where it's like deadlines there are, like Liz said, oh my God, you've got to get there. Here we have deadlines too. They're called air dates, and if you don't make your air date, the network does not want to hear that you are not ready to go to air. That is a big thing. And I've worked on shows where we've run up and delivered an episode 24 hours before air. So it's, no matter where you go, it's a deadline. Films, they have deadlines. The studios want to release them into the theaters, television shows. So the more you do it, the less stressful it's going to be. It's just plain and simple. Practice makes perfect. You can't you can't prepare for every scenario. All you can prepare is how you're going to react in every scenario and work the problem. Don't let the problem work you.
Yeah, one piece of advice.
Speaking of problems,
go ahead, Dave.
Sorry, Ken. Problems, you don't worry about the problems, only solutions. Because if you get stacked up on all the things that you can't control, you're going to get all muddled up. So just focus on what the viewer is going to see rather than, okay, I got a parking ticket. Okay, Fred has a tripod, but he's 5 blocks away. All those things don't really matter to the viewer. So you just find the solution and make it happen.
And my advice, particularly for the contest, is whatever your deadline is, back it up 30 minutes. Because there's so many times that people go right up to the very end and they don't check their video and there's a flash frame in it, or there's a piece of sound that's obviously too loud that if they had just played it, they would have recognized, oh, we gotta tweak that, or they'll notice the misspelling that they have in one of the graphics. And then you've got to upload it, right? And you got to make sure that you compress it so that it's a small enough file. That all takes time, and so often that gets pushed to the end, and then it's 5 minutes up, and you just don't have time to do it right. So whatever the deadline is, back it up some so that you can actually, in the last few minutes, do what you need to do to get it right.
Yeah, I agree with Ken there. I mean, as a judge and stuff, I don't know how many times I've seen things where you can tell that it clearly wasn't, as we call it, QC, check the work. And it does cost points, typos and stuff. This is a professional product you're trying to put out there. If you're in a newsroom or if you're in Hollywood, if typos cause problems, flash frames, dropped audio, make sure you're checking your work. Give yourself every advantage to put your best foot forward possible.
Yeah, it's having that second look, and second looks are really important when you're exporting, from what I'm echoing off of you guys, but it's also really important in almost all of your processes. So I guess what's one thing that you guys would recommend to take a second look at before exporting or filming? If that's a technical detail or story-wise, what would it be for you guys?
Probably the most important thing would be, for me, would be seamless audio. So many times you hear hiccups and pops and things like that, or a microphone that's across the room. Seamless audio, especially in the edit, audio dissolves or keyframes will save you a lot of hassle in the long run.
There's
I would
a,
say, oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead, Liz.
Oh, I was just going to say black flash frames. I know we've seen that many times before, and they can literally be not even a second, and they can be missed. So be sure to watch for those. And then any typos. I know we've caught those before too on anything made as far as graphics are concerned, but just make sure everything is spelled correctly.
I mean, to go with what Dave was saying when we talk about audio, there was a piece of advice I got back when I was in college from a professor. Take a pair of headphones with you, plug them into your camera. So don't try to record, well, not say blindly, but without hearing what your camera is bringing in, because 9 out of 10 times, if you have those headphones on, you're going to catch those problems right then and there. And you're not going to try to have to worry about them when you get into post. You walk into any newsroom, most every photog will have headphones that go with their camera.
And I know this year that it's really tough because a lot of you are shooting off of phones. You don't have the audio equipment that you normally would have. But then that's all the more reason that when you're in edits, that you really listen to that. And as Dave was saying, if you have a piece of video that's just, the sound is just awful, it's or whatever, then instead of worrying about it, think about, okay, what other shot can we use? What else, where else can we go with this? Instead of just saying, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, doing that production and actually filming on case, sometimes there might be a few technical issues or things to focus on. I think, Dave, you had a video that you wanted to share with us. Could you just explain to us a little bit about what that was about in regards to screen direction?
Yeah, what you're about to see is from several years ago. It's my son explaining just exactly how the camera works. And in news and documentary, which is what we're trying to stress on here, is how the eye works. The camera has to reflect that. There has to be a reason for the camera to pan. There has to be a reason for the camera to tilt. The human eye is not an earthquake. That's why we say steady sequence video and using the world as your tripod. Here's my son, Matthew, to explain that and a couple other things.
Hi, my name is Matthew Wertheimer, and welcome to Winter in Minnesota. The commitment statement would be, Matthew teaches sequencing and loves it. Lesson number 1, tight shots get you in and out of everything. Into frame, positive action. In frame, positive action. Out of frame, negative action. Continuity, from going to one side of the screen to the other. You see, it's all about screen direction and continuity. Continuity and screen direction are so important to your story. Another tight shot. Let's talk about how the eye works. Here's a wide shot, medium shot, tight shot. If you think that's tight, this is even tighter. So tight you can feel it. Tight shot and smile. Well, you don't have to. Tight shot, reflection shot. Hi, Dad. Transition, tight shot. Wide establishing shot. Medium, action. Matched action, reaction. Over the shoulder perspective. Another transition shot. Reflection shot, fun. Another establishing shot. To another tight shot. Transition shot. Nunchucks of lightning versus a green viper. Transition shot. The guy with the red face with the white body, hottie, is screen right, and the blue ninja is screen left. If they weren't, it would look really weird if he turned around. You'd be crossing your axis. Tight shot transition. You gotta remember screen direction, Matthew. Watch where the nose goes. That's right, Matthew. Watch where the nose goes. And the rules are steady sequence video. If you're handheld and shaky, you're telling the viewer there's something wrong. So once again, here are the rules. Wide, medium, tight, super tight, and you don't want these guys getting too close. The human eye cannot pan, but the human eye can follow action. Here's something you shouldn't do. Zoom. Because whenever you zoom, you're editorializing what the viewer sees. Not again. If you can, zoom with your feet and not your lens. It's not a cutaway, it's a transition shot, Dad. Continuity from right to left. Bumblebee the Dragon Tamer. So thanks for visiting me in Minnesota. See you later.
Yeah, so thank you so much for,
So
oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
basically, it's a lot of stuff to think about when you're shooting in terms of continuity is the big thing. Stay steady, watch, where people are going, that nose thing that we're talking about, that Matthew was talking about. Just try and think continuity, plan it out.
One of the things I love about that video is because so many times I'll hear from a student saying, well, we just didn't have anything to shoot, which is why we had some zooms and pans because we had nothing else to shoot. And there was nothing to shoot pretty much except that kid on that lake, right? And how many different shots did you see? Boom, 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 and shot relatively quickly, I would imagine, because it was so freaking cold anyway. But I mean, there is easily 45 seconds, a minute of sequences that could fill up just about any story that you want. So really think about that in and out of frame, and think about that tight and super tight, and because that will really help you when you're in a place where we just don't have a lot of video here, which is true, happens a lot. Don't have a lot of video, but there are things you can do.
I don't like the word cutaway. I'm not a fan of it. I like the word transition. So in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, how am I going to transition from one part of the story to the next? And one thing that helps a lot is an extreme tight shot with natural sound underneath. Those extreme tight shots where you just see the thumb or something like that will get, as long as it's part of the story, of course, will get you to the next part, from day to night, from anything, rather than a forced dissolve, because we dream in dissolves, we live in cuts.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice that I hope some students will take with them as they go into their competitions, because there's so many ways to be creative, especially now during the pandemic. It might feel difficult to feel that way, but there's definitely ways to do it, as we just saw. I guess just to throw it to Liz real quick, I know you also had a video to share with us. Could you explain the reasons behind that? Because I know you picked this video for a reason, and I wanted you to explain that.
Yeah, Ellen, I think that's a good point with what you're talking about. It's a challenge that we've been in for the last year now, as we do most of our interviews on Zooms, and we gather pictures from the people we're interviewing, or any videos they have on their phones, anything that can help bring the story to life in a way that maybe we never thought about before. That's really what we've been forced to do in the last year. And part of my responsibility for the last year has been bringing stories of people who have passed away from COVID. We just call it Faces of COVID. And this is a story that aired last week. And what I think is so important about this, I try to tell these stories in a way that it's everything from those who've died in the nursing home to this is a young father who's an Air Force member. And that, the pandemic has affected all of us, but these are the families that really have the heaviest burden in all of this. And we try to do these stories in a way that we go back to our storytelling skills, and we learn about these people, And we want other people to sort of remember the lives that have been lost in the last year or two. So this is a way that we tried to incorporate some nat sound and still just tell a story for 90 seconds on the news that aired last week on WCCO.
The number one thing I noticed was his smile.
They grew up in small northern Minnesota towns. A sense of service sent Michael Morris from Cass Lake into the Air Force alongside Amanda's brother.
He just had come home for Christmas and he calls me and he's just like, well, he's like, I want to marry you.
For 14 years, she lived as the wife of an active duty military member. Morris deployed 3 times to Iraq and twice to Afghanistan, treasuring the time he spent with his 3 kids.
He was a great father. Like, I never met anybody like the way that he fathered our kids.
From Moody Air Force Base in Georgia, they moved to Aviano, Italy, as Morris made technical sergeant. COVID restrictions sent Amanda back to Minnesota as her husband stayed on base to work.
He got tested on the 4th of January, and the positive results came out on the 6th.
His slight cough turned into trouble breathing, but Amanda says her husband was advised not to go to the emergency room. On January 12th, Michael called an ambulance from home.
It was under 10 minutes, and they were on the phone with him, and he just was unresponsive.
Never in a million years did you think this is what would happen?
No.
The Air Force says it is actively investigating Michael's death, adding that he was highly respected and will be missed by many.
We did do his services Monday and Tuesday, and it was very hard.
Amanda's doing her best to stay strong for her kids, still questioning her husband's final days.
It's very hard to accept this.
Liz Collin, WCCO 4 News.
So I'll just say with that, it is a Zoom call interview, and you can see the very talented photographer I work with on a daily basis, Tom Mavillis, brings in things like natural sound of a helicopter. Just sort of, subtle things that help take you there. And I also have decided that, with so few things together, natural sound I tend to use myself as natural sound. Just the typical way you would have a conversation with someone. You hear me, I think, in that story saying something like, never in a million years, would you think your husband would pass away this way? And something like that can just advance the story, humanize yourself, as the reporter. But it's also just a way to break up, what would be just a, track, soundbite track. So look for ways to do that, even in these difficult circumstances.
A friend of mine used to say, you can't look at your story like you're saying is just bread, meat, bread, meat, bread, meat. There has to be the cheese and lettuce and all those little subtle things that kind of bring it all together. And especially with nat sound, that's going to hold and keep your audience interested, especially if it's meaningful natural sound.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about that piece is you start hearing the audio. So, I mean, it's a way to advance the story. So you start hearing the helicopter and then you see the helicopter blades. And think about it if you're doing a story about a girls' basketball team, for instance, and you have this great interview with one of the athletes talking about what she really loves about the game. She loves the practices. And then she says something else, just like another 2 or 3 seconds. That's an opportunity to, well, gee, maybe if I could hear some sneakers against the gym floor, and then I go to that shot of the practice, right? You just want the sound when you can to help reinforce what the story is.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit from the film side here to where, when we film on set, we do have some natural sound. Most of our stuff is done in post, because we're all about control. We want to control it. There's a saying that my sound supervisor here at Stargirl uses, that if sound does their job correctly, your film's better and you don't know why, but it is better. So as much time, while students, when you're in a Crazy Eights or short film or any of these competitions, make sure you're leaving enough time to do a little sound design in your video, because it's going to help. It's going to make it better, and nobody's going to know why. But that is the one thing that people just overlook. They get caught up on so much of the scope and the shot, they forget about the fine details that really set things apart.
And not that you're doing this for the judges and the score, but believe me, the judges will notice that. They'll be like, she actually sort of understands what audio is supposed to be about. And that's really important. So, I mean, you want to show your chops, right? It's like, I understand what audio is supposed to do. I understand what story is. That's what we look for. We don't look for perfection, but we do want to see that it's like, oh, they understand that this is a cool way to try to tell the story.
Yeah, well, I like to say, going off with Ken, is that you should never be about winning awards. You should be about putting your best foot forward. I know we all like to win awards, and I was a student, I like to win awards. If you make and focus on your craft and making it better, the awards are going to come, but the difference is you are going to be so much better for it. As your craft goes and as you get better, other things will come. And so that's what you really should be focusing on.
This is what's left of my first Emmy. I have over 20 of them. I gave them all away because I'm only as good as my next story, not my last. And I put stuff in for award. We'll see what happens.
That's really great advice. I apologize about the AirPod, but that's really great advice that I think you guys all provided about really focusing more on telling the story than the actual success or product of the awards themselves. I guess it's time to turn into some questions. We have a really great one from Kaylee from Whitney High School. And she has a question on, do you have any tips or tricks to get a good interview using certain questions, or how to pick an interviewee for a story where you're picking people on the fly? Also, thank you so much for taking this time to get to know us better. So she had that too.
I would say that I have a lot of go-tos on basically a daily basis. But a lot of questions like, what was going through your head when that happened? What were you thinking when that happened? That will always, garner a good response. And then this is a trick that Don Shelby, an old anchor at our station, that I always think is kind of funny, but it really does work. He would say to someone, so would you say that this is the hottest day of the year? And people will actually say, this is the hottest day of the year. I mean, sometimes he would say, no, actually, will you say that? I don't recommend that. But I will say that if you say, well, would you say that, would you say that? And they will often sometimes, say it in that way and sort of lead you down the right road.
One of it's hard, especially a person in the street. You're like, oh, is that person going to talk to me? Does she want to talk to me? He want to talk to me? Sometimes you get a sense. Sometimes you're dead right. Often you're dead wrong. One of the things early in my career, I had a hard time infringing on people's times. I thought that, what am I? Just because we have a camera, I'm not going to impose myself on this person. And what I often found once I was forced into doing it is that actually they would love to talk to you. Now, some don't, but many are like, yeah, sure, I'll talk to you. One question I always ask at every interview, it's the last question, is there anything I haven't asked you want to make sure it gets said? And honestly, I use the answer to that at least 1 out of 3 times, because they've got something to tell you. So do that. The one other thing is that when you ask them a question and you don't quite get the answer you want, this is what you do. They'll start talking. Now some won't. I remember one state trooper in particular who just stood there. But most people just will be like, well, and what I really mean is, and then you get a better soundbite anyway.
And that's the hardest thing for a reporter to do, because they're looking for filling in that gap, that moment of silence. But whereas that moment of silence, just listening and eye contact, it really comes up. Really works with the getting a great summit. I like to set it up with a what, and then I'm like a little kid. I say, well, why? I don't understand why. Sometimes that works.
Yeah. No, I think all those points are really great, and definitely the silence being uncomfortable. I've definitely used that before in some of my documentaries, and it's very effective. I've used that. Our next question is from Michaela from Del Oro High School, and she says, what is the most important thing, in your opinion, to keep in mind throughout this week?
Lunch.
I personally think this is really all about teamwork, and this business is about teamwork, whether it's my photojournalist, my producer, my news director. That's what I really like about this business, and really, which has been sad for the last year, just sort of missing my colleagues. It's about, your craft and kind of creating this together. So be sure to listen to the voices in your group, and, try to use something from everybody, because it really is a collaboration, and that's what's so great about this business.
I think, if you're in a place where you can, be together, that's great. But don't think if you're not, like here in Southern California, it's not going to stop you from doing something great. I am currently standing in my office, but I am actually the only one here. My entire editorial team is remote. They jump into their systems. So even though that they're not here, and I miss that aspect of being able to walk into their edit bay and interact with them, we're still a team. We're still working together to put together a great product. I know on set, they can't have everybody that they used to have on set, so they have to set up zones. So no matter what your challenge is, don't see it as a challenge, see it as an opportunity. Because if you look at it that way, you're already in a positive mindset. It's going to come through. I go back to everything showing up on screen, everything that you're feeling, everything that you're doing will come through in your craft. If you're not feeling great about something, it may not turn out right on the camera. If you're feeling really great, it's going to show. So don't let any restrictions limit you. I think this is an opportunity.
Yeah. So again, all of those are great points. I know I keep reiterating that, but guys, I really hope you're taking notes during these, because they're providing you really great feedback to incorporate in your competitions and just to keep in the back of your mind. This next one is from Eric from Manchester High School. And I think we've touched about this a little bit back before, but maybe we could just be a little bit more explicit. What stands out to you the most in a good news program?
It's not the set. And I see some really great sets. I see some really creative, effective animations. To me, and you're talking about a program, the thing that the program makes sense. That was the lead story. That was the good story to lead with, and that was a good story then to lead into the next thing. And the anchors actually seemed to be paying attention to the first story and then turned our attention to the second story. So I guess what makes a great program is that there's this sense that it's this whole thing, even though you've got 4 teams putting together 5 different segments, that it's really a whole.
I'm a little bit more vain. But I think camera presence is very important, and I think you can start that at an early age. I mean, I used to do live reports into my toothbrush in the mirror just to keep talking, just to keep practicing, to sort of, do breathing exercises to help bring you down a little bit. Because if you come off calm, you come off, in control of the situation. I think that's what people want from the news. They don't want to, oh my gosh, there's a fire behind me, and you just need to have a calm presence about you, and camera presence is something you can start working on right now. And that I always will, when I would be judging, I was struck at how some people are just naturals on camera from an early age, but those really are skills you can hone and you have control over.
That's it. That's all we got.
All right. I didn't know if you guys were going to keep going. I was waiting for that silent pause. I was like, are they going to say more? Sorry about that, guys. I guess we have our next question. This is about specifically the personal vlog category. It's Taylor from Waiakea High School. For the personal vlog category, what's your idea of a successful vlog? Should the students talk about their opinions on the prompt or let their actions and activities about the prompt drive the video?
I mean, I can start. To me, it's really a matter of preference. I'm not as big a fan of exposition as we call it, to where you're explaining what you're doing or explaining, where you want to go. I'd rather see you do it. So for me, it'd be less exposition, more doing. So, but there's more than one right answer to that.
Yeah. I think you should decide before you walk out the door which way you're going to do it, and then hold to it, if that makes sense. I mean, if you have, this is what I want to do, then as Grant was saying, that's the right choice for you. It's not like there's only one way to do it.
With I'm not too familiar with this category, but even with Zoom calls or FaceTime or anything like that, and since it's a personal vlog, have the person talk about what surrounds them, and hopefully it's meaningful. Yeah, Dave has a bunch of old ass cameras, and he's gonna show them, even though it's the camera's locked down on the computer. You can do this, and even just pan around on the computer. Show me something. Let me feel it a little bit, rather than just have a talking head. Try and involve someone in something that's meaningful to the story.
And don't shout, which often happens when the camera is like 12 feet away and you just start talking louder. Don't do that. And it's hard not to, but just remember the person's only this far away from you. So just talk in a normal tone of voice, and don't throw your voice.
Yeah, that's a good tip. We don't want someone yelling at us on the camera. I guess sorry.
No, happens all the time.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but who knows? It could happen. I'm probably yelling right now in some people's headphones, and I apologize for that. I guess our last question tonight goes out it's from Madison from Valley Middle School. And her question is, how do you deal with your mistakes that you make on camera or behind the camera?
Fail forward. We all screw up all the time. I still do it. And you realize, oops, that was a mistake. As long as you realize it's a mistake, and then you keep going forward, as opposed to failing and collapsing in a heap like I'm never going to be any good. No, you just learned a lesson. And Liz can probably talk to this. I mean, the number of times that you've stumbled on air or said a word that you weren't supposed to say, and part of it is just, it's human not to be perfect. And so don't get clenched that you're not perfect.
I think that's it. I think to really make in this business, you have to have a thick skin. I've seen many people in my 20 years get out of the business simply because they don't. I mean, you have to laugh at yourself. You have to have a good sense of humor. I've been hit with a light stand on live TV reporting in a rainstorm, and I just made a quick comment and moved on. My microphone's been caught in commercial break, or I've been talking. Don't ever swear if you have a microphone on. That's a good pro tip. I wasn't. But just if you have a microphone on, always pretend it's live. That's something else. But yeah, you can't let mistakes cripple you. But I like that. Fall forward. You got to learn from them and move on, because it's live TV. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Go ahead, Dave.
Just being the person behind the lens is, if I double punch something or screw up something in the video, I've got to over communicate that with the producer or somebody else, so that they know that, okay, Dave messed up. We got to find another way to show whatever it is. It doesn't happen often, but just fall forward. It's not a problem. There's always solutions.
I would say, you know, from a behind the scenes camera thing, working in post as I do, I see a lot of stuff. And the best advice I can give is if you have the chance, if you mess up and you have the chance to reshoot something or redo it, do it at the production level. I know at STN, they used to make sure to say, we'll fix it in post, and that's everybody's favorite, you know, tagline. But I'm going to tell you two things. One, you can't always fix it in post. And two, if you can, it is extremely expensive. I like to say that, you know, fix it in post is one of the most expensive phrases in Hollywood. Always try to get it right on set or out when you're filming. And if you don't think you have it, shoot it again. The worst that can happen is you have more footage than you need and you have more options to choose from.
Yeah. Well, that's all great advice. I hope you all do really well in this year's STN competitions and everything with Crazy Eights and beyond. Thank you so much, panelists, for providing this invaluable advice to our students. And a big thank you to Megatrax for sponsoring our music for this week's competitions. We are so grateful and excited to be working with this company that has really great music to offer to our students. And if you don't think you've heard of them, you literally heard them during the countdown before. So we're super excited to be working with them. And another big shout out goes to M Entertainment Group for producing tonight's program. Two former STN alum students actually run this program, and we couldn't be more excited to be working with them on this. So thank you guys so much. And a final announcement, tomorrow night we do have Crazy Eights, which will be super duper stressful, but a really fun way to relax and de-stress from all that adrenaline is by coming to our game night. It's tomorrow at 7 Pacific Standard Time, and we'd love to see you guys there. If you want more details, be sure to check out the convention website. Now, are we ready to get this convention started? Because I think we are. Yeah, let's count it down. All right, so STN begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get out there and tell the story, STN. Have a great night.